Tranquility, brought to you by Sahaj Mug.
Good evening.
Good evening and welcome to the show.
Welcome to Tranquility. Humanity has made a lot of advancement in science, in technology, in everything that they had the ambition to achieve and to reach. But yet, what is missing is that inner centeredness and inner peace that they are avoiding and they are not looking into it, which is very important to be able to looking at it.
Absolutely, we are struggling, no doubt about that. If we are unable to do anything for our inner well-being, how can we change the external?
If our relationship with our own self is comfortable, it's very smooth, it's spontaneous, then easily our relationship with the outside world will be easy.
Liz with us again on the show this time, and we are very pleased to welcome them.
I would like to welcome Christian Dur, Véronique Nicolai, Sepi de Safavi, and brother Jafar Asalman. Welcome to the show.
Is it possible to change others around us without us changing ourselves?
I think it's the other way. If we change ourselves, the change comes from us, then the world surrounding us will change too.
I think that's a great point. You know, we hear that nowadays a lot. I don't think it was known before that really change needs to start with you. I think a lot of times people had aspirations to change their, their work, their life, and they didn't realize that the only change that can happen is inside. I think now we hear that a lot, through different teachers who are teaching it. For me, an example of that was, again, going back to a work experience I had where I was working with someone who was very critical of everything we were experiencing. We were working on a very challenging project that had a lot of changes. And every time we had a change, this individual would complain vehemently with a lot of emotion. And one day we had another change, and I just told myself, today you will see a different side, and you will see that this person is capable of showing you patience and acceptance and all of that. And that was just a thought, and it was a thought to me in a way, because my expectation was always that she's going to react a certain way. Lo and behold, she was reacting that way every time, right? But that day, because I changed my expectation of what was to happen, she came in, we told her about the change, and she said, oh, okay, great. Went down, sat down at her desk and started working. We were all in a state of shock that what happened? This is the same person, and everyone expected a reaction. But that to me is an example of how we need to change ourselves, and then everything we experience changes. And very seldom we realize, people who meditate should be more aware of this, but that doesn't mean we are, I think. That's my experience. And a lot of the teachings you have to kind of be repeated and reminded of again. Even though you know it, you seem to forget it or get caught up in the experience and revert back to old behaviors. But this was a perfect example of how, by changing myself, my expectation, my view of this person, I created the space and allowed her to actually be different. And that's the thing I keep coming back to and reminding myself every time, something comes up that is challenging, it's not the challenge that I need to change, it's myself and how I'm looking at it, how I'm experiencing it. Hope that makes sense, I don't know.
It makes a lot of sense, and for me it's again connected to tolerance. Because this imposing change, if I try to impose change on myself or on others, if it's too forceful, it's about intolerance, no? I lose tolerance. And I can observe it so much with my children. I mean, of course, children need guidelines and we need to guide them, but to impose change on them, it's very difficult. And I think it's also not the right way. It is. And it's much more easy to try to impose change than to giving a good example. And that's one aspect. The other one is, you know, it's good to experience what meditation can do. And we are talking about a very passive state of being when we meditate. But it's like, you know, you throw a stone into the water and there's one ripple and many ripples come out of this one ripple. I mean, there are so many instances where we could experience what meditation does on others. For example, when my grandmother, she was in hospital, in intensive care station, I remember she was completely stressed, and also this whole intensive care station, there was a lot of running around and people were really in a bad mood. So I sat down and meditated for 10 minutes and I could feel the effect on the people. It all calmed down. I was so amazed that this, you know, if you react and say, can you please be nice to my grandmother, and you're not behaving properly, because this was actually happening. It gives another input into a negative situation. So somehow, for me, at this moment, it was magic. The whole atmosphere in this intensive care station changed. And the only thing I did was closing my eyes and meditate.
You see, I see it that the love comes from your own self. And when you don't love yourself, how can you expect to love others? Everything else that's surrounding you, around you. But tell me something. Were we like that all along?
Okay, I feel it's a question for me as a child specialist, you know, because I think this is really related to the heart of the child, this being in a state of wonder. And it's also magic as adults when we are in the company of children, how we feel back to this state of wonder and everything is fine. So actually it was not always like this. I believe and I strongly see it in children that we were like this as children, and we have to allow ourselves, because it's there, to rediscover that in ourselves. So how we do that, and that's where meditation helps. You go into it, recognize it, nourish it, develop it, and see it working in every simple things in life, you know. And it happens. It happens very beautifully.
Yeah, I think that the world outside us is a reflection of our inner way of thinking, our inner conditioning. So if one harbors negative way of thinking, then there will be negativity around. And the other way is also correct. If you embrace positive way of thinking, you know, then the world will be more hopeful, more promising, and more positive. Conditioning from the outside world is what forms our character. So character is the sum total of all the impressions and deeds that we have done experiences we have gathered, all of these, they form our character. Now, this has been building around the essence, because the question asks if we have been all along. I will go even before childhood. Infant, we are supposed to be born with the essence. And the essence is love and beauty. Slowly, slowly, family, society, they put their input, of don't do this, don't go there, don't stand up, don't sit down. All of these impressions start to gather and build like a thick wall around the essence. Experiences at school, experiences at society, at work, etc. So the essence at the end is totally covered to the extent of suffocation. It doesn't even feel the light from outside. Then here comes, that your essence is this, but you have built a thick wall around it by the wrong attitudes, wrong upbringing, wrong way of thinking. And now when you realize this, you start to search for a way to help you out, which means that you have to gradually go back to the essence by unpeeling the personality. Step by step, with patience, with this, to go back to the source, to go back to the essence, which is joy and beauty. So I would say, no, our essence is joy and beauty. We have not been all alone. This is a self-inflicted wound by humanity on itself, and they deserve better.
Tranquility, brought to you by Sahaj Mug.
Love is the need of the hour. It can conquer all. But isn't it sad that we reserve the worst behavior for our loved ones?
Street angels and house devils.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, what is the use if we preach love and then we behave badly with others? So if we really practice living with the heart, we cannot be harsh with our... Yeah, that's the ideal thing, that we always live in this inner condition of love and be nice with our family and friends. I completely agree, but I also would like to add something. What is love? For me, love is not something which always has to manifest in a way that it becomes kind of artificial. And I would say the more there is, let us say, troubles in a family, the more there needs to be, gifts for the wife, gifts for the children, and things like this. So I completely agree that how can I be loving in meditation and then not manifest it in the external world? But for me, love is something which is beyond this permanent need of being expressed very nicely. There can be so much love when you sit with someone and you don't talk, and you even don't show off, not like a smile and things like this. So I always got a little bit annoyed with this, love movement, that we are all love, we are all flowers and things like this. It's not this, it's an inner state, I would say. It's an inner state which responds not only to our needs, but to the need of the environment. And then it can really manifest. Because if I need to say to my wife or to my children all the time, oh honey, I love you so much, I love you so much, then it's like I need to reconfirm something which doesn't exist, no? So I find that's really important. And also life, it's not always easy. It can also be tough. When we are talking here about heartfulness and all these things, it doesn't mean that we have to encounter daily problems, and it's a little bit about how our attitude can change to respond to problems in a smarter way, I would say. But problems we will always have, and not because we are practicing heartfulness meditation, we will dance in love every day, every night, every second. It's not this.
I just was going to say, taking a different perspective on that. Why are we saying love is in the air and it is the need of the hour? Because I happen to live in a part of the world where there's conflict all around me in the Middle East. And when you look at it, what is the cause of it? The cause of it, a lot of it has to do with, if you boil it down to people not trusting one another, not being tolerant, or having expectations, or I think tolerance and judgment and trust is a big part of it. And how love comes into play in that, for me, the only time you actually can truly manifest tolerance, acceptance, kindness, is when you have love in the heart. It comes from that. That's like the prerequisite. So if there's no love and you're trying to be kind or you're trying to be tolerant, it's a forced effort. And you will go only so far, and push comes to shove, you pushed a little bit more than you think you can tolerate at that moment, you boil over, you're past that point. But love seems to increase our capacity to be able to extend all those nice qualities to everyone, to our fellow humans. I think there's a point in, why is it that people say you're good to other people but you're not good to your own family? That's a big thing for the person who's experiencing that to think about, because there is a level of disconnectedness if that's happening, because you are pushing where you think there is more tolerance, which is people close to you, and where you think there's no tolerance, then you're controlling yourself. So that is not coming from a place of the heart, it's coming from calculation and the mind. So I think what love does, it takes us away again from our mind into, is this really something I want to react to? Is this even worth my reaction? Or are there more important things happening that I need to remember and reconnect with to then behave in a different way? So I agree it's important, but it's exactly, is it the love itself, or is it what love makes possible for us? And to me, it's what love makes possible in the sense of who we become and how we interact. So that's how I see it.
Meditation was always the best way and means for the transformation, which has been there from the beginning of times. And everybody, all the saints, all the people who were having this knowledge of transformation developed that system of meditation.
We have discussed in depth in the various episodes on the importance of the heart. It is not only a pumping station, rather it's not only a blood pumping station. It's way beyond that.
So to talk about the importance of the heart in my profession, the fetus, you know, the heart is actually the first organ to be complete in the mother's womb, and when the parents discover, you know, the heartbeat of the baby on the scan, it's really a very special moment, you know. So the heart definitely is extremely important. There's, I mean, at the other end of life, you know, we don't declare someone dead unless the heartbeat is gone. So it definitely shows the importance of the heart. You can have no mind, you're still alive, unfortunately, and that's a very tricky situation, by the way. But so the heart defines somehow life as we understand it. So it becomes a little easier to see that there is something really important and in this organ. And I think what we learn during heartfulness meditation is that we don't actually talk about the pumping heart only, but we discover a field of energy that is much more than, and it expands, you know. We feel something here, definitely, but then our understanding of the heart really becomes bigger. And then this is how it happens naturally, that we live by the heart.
Yeah, when we think of the heart, I mean, we don't say he has a beautiful mind, no? We say he has a beautiful heart. And also about the heart, we say from the bottom of my heart. So even in our language, the heart is playing the part of expressing our feelings. And what is life? Life is all about expressing our feelings in a way. If not, we would be a computer. And so the heart is the very central station for everything which is connected of being, let us say, a human being. So it's so obvious that there's the heart, which is the most important field of love energy which we have in our system.
And if you want to do something well, what do? You say, put your heart into it. No?
Right.
You don't say put
Again,
your mind into it. So it means like yourself. So that represents you as a being, entire being, you know, complete.
You don't want to say?
No, I think they covered everything.
Yeah. Well, I want to recite just one line of Rumi, which probably relates to this. Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi says, "The language of God is silence. All else is poor translation."
That's lovely.
Oh, actually, now that you said that, I want to add another poem also, which I wish I could say the Farsi version of it, but I've seen it in English, the translation, but I really love this. And it says, "Love has come to rule and transform. Stay awake, my heart, stay awake." So the transformation happens there, and I just love that. I have that at my desk at work, and every once in a while I just look at it, I feel inspired.
That's a beautiful one.
You see, this is why I wanted to be till last, because all else is poor translation.
So we'll take it at the
She
end.
should have said her poem, and then
It
I
didn't
said
come to me
mine.
until you said
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
why.
So you say yours again? Then we
I want to add
in silence.
something also.
The language of God is silence. All else is poor translation.
Tranquility, brought to you by Sahaj Mug.
Yes, it's true. There's this perception that often the permanent transformation lacks. And I would say there can be different reasons for it. Also, I can have too much expectation about what has to change, and kind of put too much pressure on my inner transformation. And with pressure, it just doesn't work. What we are doing in heartfulness meditation is that we don't suppress anything. And we have been talking about thoughts, no? We are not suppressing our thoughts. So actually, I would say the base for a real inner transformation is that you don't suppress anything. And let us say there are, you know, how we deal thoughts. We just don't give them too much attention. We don't say, oh, this thought has no right to come. We just let it go. So these kind of impressions of the past or these thoughts, they can really leave our system once and for all. And at this moment we are free. We are free of what has been bothering us from the past. And then there's a real potential for inner transformation.
Mm-hmm. Also, what I've seen is that sometimes we feel that we are having the same experience again and again, same situation, you know, and you wonder why after, you know, I mean, I'm trying to change and still I'm caught in the same interactions and same reaction from my side. But if you really, and that's also where I like the diary, you know, where you note what's really happening. If you look closely, I have felt that you actually experiment things in a different layer all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's like this feeling that you referred before, Jafar, is the same maybe theme, same situation is there, but it will be decreased in intensity. And I also feel that there's a point where suddenly it's not there. And then you don't even realize it. And then you look after a year or 6 months and you say like, oh, but I'm not angry anymore, you know. Mm-hmm. So there's this possibility to feel that at some point there's no change, but actually it's happening, but you have to let it happen and again, and then you see that it's gone. So I think we have to be patient in this process. Also, one more thing that was coming to my mind when you were speaking is that in the process of change, there is a funny thing that sometimes some things come out of yourself that you didn't know was existing. And that's sometimes extremely troubling, because I remember I have told myself that I felt I was a better person before at some point, you know. And it's because all those things are allowed to surface. Mm-hmm. And then this is where you really need courage to look at yourself and say like, actually this was there in me. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it, and now I have to face it. And what's for me, it's been really important in meditation, in this heartfulness, is that there's a support. So I can go to, you know, I try on my own, I have my practice on my own, I do my best, I write my diary, I observe myself, and sometimes I get so frustrated because the change is not happening. So what we can do is reach out for help. And then there's the trainer, and he sits with you, and then there's a real help happening with this transmission. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, when actually you reach out for help, is the time where it's like the fruit is ready and it goes, you know, mm-hmm. and you go to the next step. I think you've all experienced that.
See, the heart and the mind has to be synchronized, to be unified, and to cultivate the heart full of love, and ultimately to regulate the mind, and all will be synchronized and fall into place together.
Yeah, we talked about that already before in the previous episodes, and I think we tend to think that those two things are separate, but actually the heart and the mind are supposed to work together, and they are actually, we talked about heart, mind, and heartfulness, you know, as one entity. So we have separated it in our way of living and of you know, apprehending it, like the mind and the heart. But actually now it's more an integration. So, and it happens naturally. You don't have to do anything. You just practice this extremely simple meditation that they have explained, and it happens. So you don't have to know too much, and you will see it happening. Jafar, what you say?
Yeah, I agree. The mind is a very powerful machine, so to say. It's one of the most precious gifts from God for man. And mind is the vehicle for human being to come nearer to his creator. But the mind has been accustomed and trained to function within the physical plane. Therefore, it is necessary to seek the safety and refuge of the heart, at least at the initial stages, where you gradually try to neutralize the mind and keep close to the heart. During meditation, during constant remembrance, when you these. Otherwise, we are looking for oneness. So, although they have different function, in reality they are one. It's like the parts of your body. You have the hand or the arm and the chest, but in reality it's one person, it's one. Yeah. So I agree with you that there is oneness of the heart and the mind. Once we cultivate their nearness, you know. So I think that's what I agree with you totally.
With this, we come to the end of this Tranquility TV series. We thank all our viewers for watching the show.
We would like to thank you all our viewers who dedicate your time, your effort to open your hearts and listen here. Alongside with you, we would like to thank all our panelists who dedicated their time to gather from all corners of the world to just come here and be able to share that unity with all of you. See you all hopefully soon.
Tranquility, brought to you by Sahaj Mug.